Hi, itsdivya. What does the G stand for? The G stands for going to disown this slogan in 2022, just like my dad disowned his sister. So, I read 10 out of 10 books. Change, I read 188% more books this year than last year. We started off the year with Shadow and Bone, the first book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Shadow and Bone, in preparation for the Shadow and Bone show, first Shadow and Bone, so that I could watch Shadow and Bone, and I read Shadow and Bone and Shadow and Bone. What is Shadow and Bone about?
Surrounded by enemies, the once great nation of Ravka has been torn into by a gigantic fog cloud, the Shadowfold, a swath of near impenetrable darkness and moulding onion bargy stench, crawling with monsters who feast on human flesh. Now its fate may rest on the shoulders of one bland, lonely refugee. Alina Starkov has never been good at anything, including having realistic motivation for anything other than infatuation with a toxic man.
Oh man. So it turns out, oh wait, this girl has the potential power to destroy this no man's land fold and restore economic growth. The first book is like training your powers, discovering your destiny plotline. We love seeing ordinary people become extraordinary. The main issue with Shadow and Bone is the fact that it's cut from the same YA cloth as a lot of other stories that you've already read. Main girl, Destiny, chosen one. She lacks a lot of believable motivations behind her actions. It's not like necessarily a bad thing. For me, it just felt a little bit uninspired. If you're looking for a storyline where the young person becomes a chosen one and has a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, then I would say watch The Princess Diaries, because that had a better plotline. Super easy to read, giving me Akotar TOG vibes. Also known as the only other books that I can reference that I've read in the past 7 years. Alina ain't doing anything for me right now, but I'm enjoying it. Honey, Alina isn't gonna do anything for you for the next 700 pages. To summarize my feelings for Shadow and Bone and the entire trilogy, to be honest, as I so eloquently put, not gonna lie, I can't be asked to read book 2 unless the story is better, but I don't know. I read book 2. I didn't like book 2. Book 2 is always exposition. So book 2, Alina's basically just running away from her responsibilities, which is like, okay, like Miss Leigh Bardugo really snapped in the beginning of this book. All right, we had action. She was throwing our characters into the sea. We were doing some Peter Pan nonsense in the sky. We were searching for magical creatures here, there, everywhere. There was gonna be some sort of like adventure plotline, storyline. And then the middle was just my eczema. It was also full of action, but they just put a band-aid on the eczema and there was no cream. I'll never read this book again. It's a little bit dry, but it can't really get any worse from here. And then I read the next book. What even was it? It was waiting, trying to like regain powers, trying to like amplify powers. And it concludes with this like epic battle between light and dark, sacrifice and love. In a way, the series is really relatable because it's like me trying to do my assignments before the deadline. There is no action until the very end. Can I be mad when I'm like exactly the same? There was a really great twist at the end. Was the series fun? In a way, it's as fun as you paying money to watch a movie that you don't really enjoy in the cinema. For example, Tenet or Cats. Like, okay, I paid money for that. I paid money to watch Tenet in IMAX, and I was like, I'm gonna force my eyes to be wide. And so because I paid for this, yeah, it was fun. The biggest downfall for this entire series is the fact that it's too tropey. So if you can look past that, yeah, you're gonna enjoy yourself. Time to read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom to forget. A YA fantasy, it's a duology, short and sweet. It takes place in the same world as the Shadow and Bone series. In contrast, it has really nicely fleshed individuals, people that you root for, people with complex history, people with believable, understandable, and motivations that you kind of want to dig up and understand, hey, why are you the way that you are? Why are you the way that It's fun. It's a thrilling heist plot. Of course, it's not perfect. There's parts where the pacing is either a bit too fast or a bit too still, but overall, the series, solid. I like it. It's a good YA series. Then I read the Song of Achilles. I'm literally, as painful as this story was, it bangs. Alright, I read this in the space of like 3 days. I hate Greek mythology, right? I hate it, right? You can't even get me to read Percy Jackson. I tried to read like the first 2-3. I was like, nah, can't do it. But Madeline Miller, I don't know what, is she a witch? She's probably a witch. I had her at the stake because I don't know why, I don't know how, but she got me to like Greek mythology. This is a Greek mythology story for people who don't like Greek mythology. Achilles is infamously just like an angry man, and Miller finds love beneath that. It's a romanticized gay, it's essentially fanfic retelling of the story of Achilles, Patroclus from the Iliad. History would call them roommates, history would call them best friends, but I call them lovers. He really said none of this homophobic erasure. The biggest thing for me where I was like, If I could kiss this book, I would kiss. The fact that her prose is so buttery smooth, it's like ghee. Gulp it down, you swallow that shit like smooth coffee. Song of Achilles is an aesthetic in itself. If you need a book to quote, if you are writing a love letter to someone and you're like, okay, I need some inspiration, you read the Song of Achilles. If you need to steal some shit for your wedding vows, read the Song of Achilles. If you need a book that's gonna push you back into depression, read the Song of Achilles. If you need a book that's gonna make you cry like your dog just died after eating your left toe, read the Song of Achilles. This book needs a trigger warning, yeah, before you read it. And the trigger warning is the trigger that you're gonna cry like a bitch. Your emotions is healthy and valid, but you're gonna cry like a bitch. I'll read some quotes for you to really try and get you to read this book. Context, Patroclus is on some battleground and someone is like shooting a spear at his face. Okay. In the haze of terror, I see a man leveling a spear at my face. Somehow I am quick enough and it passes over me, ruffling my hair like a lover's breath. Lover's breath, like a lover's breath. That's so poetic. I could recognize him by touch alone, by smell. I would know him blind by the way his breaths came and his feet struck. I would know him in death at the end of the world. Hello? I'm sorry, if your SO, if your partner, if your whatever the hell does not do this for you, you're settling, babe. You're settling. If you are a fan of crying until you've regressed into the early species of man, then I would suggest read Song of Achilles. So I was like, okay, let's go back to reading Leigh Bardugo, and I read King of Scars. Now, bye. I'm a type of reader where if I read something, I will just immediately forget it. But the fact that I cannot tell you what the hell happened in King of Scars shows that I am either mentally ill or this book is just dry. Okay, to be fair, this book feels more like service to those who really enjoy their characters in Shadow and Bone. If you are a fan of that series, that world, yeah, read King of Scars, you'll probably enjoy it. I gave it like a 4 stars and I said fun times, decent, you know. It helps we have our loved characters. Nikolai and Nina. Loved? Me in May 2021. I ain't love you no more. I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now, I have seen all of the memes. I have seen the jokes. I know what people say about this book. But as a depressed bitch, when I read it, it gave me hope, okay? Like, hope is the only thing stronger than fear. Imagine you're given the chance to live all the lives that you ever wanted. Imagine you're given the chance to go back in time, to choose different choices, to kind of undo all the regrets that you've had, and to live out your dreams. That is what The Midnight Library is about. This is about a girl who suffers from situational depression. She's 30. She's working in a shop and she feels like she really hasn't lived up to any of the potential that she had when she was a child. So one day she decides that, you know what, life is just not worth living anymore. And when she's in the cusp between life and death, she finds herself in the Midnight Library where there's books with different choices and different paths that she's made in life. And she can essentially choose, hey, if you find a story or a path in one of these books that you want to live in, you're given a second chance. And I think the moral of the book is great. If you're one of the people who constantly thinks like, what if I've done this, what if I've done that? This really gives you a different perspective in the choices that you've made. A tale that allows you kind of to shed all the regrets that you've harbored throughout your life. I feel like you really come to have this sort of like gratitude. You come to have this sort of appreciation. And I think it's a great book if you're wanting to feel that sense of hope, wanting to feel like, hey, maybe the choices that I've made in life, it's okay what you've done. Obviously, yeah, this isn't therapy. This is not some sort of book where if you've got like long-term depression or whatever that you're going to read and suddenly you're going to be cured. Like, no, that's not the book. And the main character in the book also doesn't have this sort of long-term depression. It's literally just situational. There are moments where you could argue, yeah, it's like borderline cheesy. It's basically like one of those quote books for Instagram. But for me, I was reading this in a time where I was like, life is darker than my pits. People say that rejection is redirection, and I think this book is an embodiment of that. Now, I'm not going to talk about any of those like plot holes or whatever. I enjoed the book, and that's all that matters. Madeline Miller put her whole mussy into this, alright? If you want to read a sort of feministy tinged novel about a witch who turns men into pigs. This is the book for you. Circe, daughter of a titan. And from her rage and from her jealousy, she discovers that, yeah, she actually has powers. She turns gods into monsters. Zeus gets scared because he's threatened by her. And then he's like,
you know what, I'm gonna abandon you on an island.
Forced to live alone as an island gal. And she lives out her cottagecore life. Circe was complex. She was jealous. She was half god, half human. She really struggled with defining a name for herself because she exists beyond the accepted boundaries, alright? She wasn't valued by her family. It's a story about a woman. It's a story about her loneliness. It's a story about her finding strength within the loneliness. Like, I don't know how Madeline Miller does this, but with Circe, you literally spend thousands and thousands of years with this girl, yeah? But still, you're like, okay. Again, I would say it's a lot more action-packed than Song of Achilles. So if you find Song of Achilles a little bit too slow for you, try Circe, see if that works. This book that I read is on for briefly cautious inspiration. This novel is written in the form of confessional letters written by a son to their illiterate mother. Wrong is actually a poet, and you can really tell that when you're reading this. You're like, yeah, this is like a poet writing a novel. It's a story of someone trying to make sense of their fractured memories, of their family histories, and tying the stories together. So the protagonist is called Little Dog. You almost get the sense that this story is a way for them to kind of heal, process the memories, this sort of strained relationship that they had with their mother. And their mother has lived a really rough life. It's kind of why she's a product and she's born from the Vietnam War, and she struggles a lot with racism, with schizophrenia, with an abusive husband, with, you know, being working class, having to work in the salons, breaking her back day and night. So I have the grandma character as well, who's also schizophrenic, and she's kind of like a Little Dog, kind of like protector almost. She battles cancer, and she also tells Little Dog the stories about their family. I think the writing is really relatable in the sense that it really captures parts of a new immigrant experience. Like, for example, one is about showing love and how some immigrant parents tend to do that through actions instead. Sometimes our words are few and far between, or simply ghosted. In which case, the hand, although limited by the borders of skin and cartilage, can be that third language that animates where the tongue falters. Little Dog here is writing a letter to his mother, and he's talking about his mother right now when he says, "You, as a girl, you watched from a banana grove your schoolhouse collapse after an American napalm raid. At 5, you never stepped into a classroom again. Our mother tongue then is no mother at all, but an orphan. Our Vietnamese, a time capsule, a mark of where your education ended. Ma, to speak in our mother tongue, it is to speak only partially in Vietnamese, but entirely in war." In some circumstances, especially with the Vietnam War, a lot of people kind of were stripped of their identity, were robbed from their own roots. But I do think it's really worth reading, and I really did enjoy it. There are times where I do think the poeticness of the prose was just a little bit too much, but I really did enjoy it. One bit that really like got me emo was when the grandma is like ill, and then she's talking to Little Dog, and she's like, "Oh, I used to be a little girl, you know." I'm getting emo. For me, that's really emo, because it's like, okay, our grandparents, our parents, like, they used to be children too, and like, okay, I know that's obvious or whatever, but it's like, life is so difficult and it hardens you, and you go through so much trauma, and this grandma's like at the end of her life. She suffered so much, and she's like losing it, and she's like got schizophrenia, she's got cancer. She used to be young, she used to be innocent, she used to be just essentially a child, and it's I don't even know if what I'm saying makes sense, but do you get what I mean? It's just like, you kind of like stripped away from that. But yeah, those are the books that I read. I'd say my favorite, I would say The Midnight Library, one of the top bangers of the year. Both Circe and the Song of Achilles, maybe Circe more so. I actually read more books this year, but I just didn't finish them. Want to know things I DNFed? I don't know if that deserves a whole video in itself, but maybe I'll make a TikTok or something so you can follow me there. But let me know what you'd want if you'd want a YouTube video. And yeah, let me know your favorite book from last year. What was also the most shit book from last year, because I want to know about that. Have you read any of these? Let me know your opinions, and I'll see you guys next time. Please like, subscribe, or whatever the hell. Follow me on social medias, and I'll see you guys next week. Time for vlog. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Boop. Oh, that's so gross. That's really gross. I'm not gonna do that again. What just happened? Oh my god. That was my 13th reason. And my battery is dead. So after that, I read Six of Crows and Cooked. Eh? So after that, yeah, I read... so after that... Okay, so after binging that...